the left, push him to the right, general instructions, and vice versa. If he got to Hill first, then I would instruct him and talk to him, saying, okay, Gilly, this way, I'm here, I'm here. Just general football instructions, which it's common knowledge within the game, it is normal.
Big part in the semi-final.
Big part, yeah. Again, we were all playing the way we were. Peachy, I think, knocked the first goal in. I think Ozzy got involved. I think I'm not quite sure. I'm trying to get a picture of it here. Ozzy got involved with the goal itself. I think the ball went up to Ozzy. I think he knocked it down for Gilly, who just strode on and whacked it in the back of the net, which then obviously made it the 2-0 result which we had. And Gilly was then integral part of that victory, as well as the rest of the guys that were there.
Semi-finals can be very harsh games. The cost of losing there is, awful losing in a final, I know, but you did get your big occasion, you did get the star turn, and you don't at the semi-final, so it must be a difficult game to play.
It is a difficult game because the tension is on, the pressure is on. I think we were expected to win possibly, and with the likes of Malcolm Allison, who was the opposition manager, walking around with his big fedora, big cigar and one thing and another, so in 4-0 to the cameras, we didn't see this obviously because we were sort of game on, we were sort of in the dressing room preparing for the game. So all this sort of pressure was building up, and I'm sure he went in and discussed things with his players. You can beat this lot, and Laurie came in and said the same for us, we can beat this lot. I think they were a third division side at the time, so we were favourites. But it is a tense riddled sort of 90 minutes, if you like. And we overcame all that with the experience and the little bit of youth in the side to come through and be 2-0 victories, which I played in 2 semi-finals, touch wood, never lost one, so it's a nice little record.
They had Peter Taylor on the side. He didn't last long, did he? Someone got to him quite quickly, didn't they?
Believe me, yeah. He was the danger man. He was playing for England at the time. And I think they showed it 2 or 3 times in slow motion where I cleared the ball and he came across and I just clipped his knee.
Oh, yeah.
If he'd had the ball and I clipped his knee, then you can have a go at me. But genuine, I cleared the ball and I caught his knee and he was eventually taken off. I was extremely pleased. And I thought I can get on with the game now without worrying about him. And not saying that won us the game by any stretch, but he was a danger man who could have floated around any part of the field and done a lot of damage. He was a good player at the time, good left foot. But it was unfortunate. I'll rephrase that. It was an accident.
Yeah. So talking about that pressure and the release of it, because when Gilchrist goes in, now what do you feel like?
You're still not there, the final whistle has to go, sure. But now you've got a 2-0 lead and stability has got to be the thing, because normally after a goal, in my opinion, you're vulnerable for that moment in time, and you see the goals in the papers, goal after 72 minutes for one team and a goal after 73 minutes for the opposition. So it's quite common, and we didn't want that to happen. So we got this 2-0 lead, so we had to stabilise and consolidate at the back, which we did throughout the team. I hasten to add, not just the back. Everybody else had to do their work to sort of make that happen. But we consolidated for a few more minutes, and that then settled us down. And then you might notice a team become deflated because they're 2-0 down as time's running out. They're not really in the game, and we were then becoming slightly more dominant, and I think we won well in the end.
So about his future career, what's this other team he played for? Oh.
Which other team?
Oh, this Gilchrist chap. He played for some other team. Called with a P.
Oh right, excuse me. Yeah, he was there for a short space of time.
Portsmouth, we're talking about.
Yes, you've got it. Yeah.
Go on, you can say it. Say it for me.
I'll say it for you. Anything comes out of Southampton is not welcome in Portsmouth. And I mean that, tongue in cheek, if you like. But he went down to Portsmouth and he played there for a season. The general manager bought him without the manager's knowledge. I understand then the manager went out and bought somebody quickly within a month or two and put him in the side. And I think Gilly had a good track record down there, basically 6 goals in 10 games. And he had to leave because he was from Southampton. It's rivalry between the two sides and the two cities, and unfortunately he went the wrong way down to Pompey.
Oh no, some people have done all right doing that. But in terms of where he went then and what he's doing now,
he's in, I can't think what part of the country he's in, but he's working for BMW, car company. I think he's a supervisor for the mechanics and what have you. Still, I didn't recognise him the other day. We had a little meeting or gathering of the ex-players, and he used to have the frizzy hair like Ian Turner, and that was the style at the time. I unfortunately haven't changed, got thinner if anything. So I came into this hotel and I saw Hughie Fisher, who I recognised instantly. And I thought, who's that standing with him? It was the back, I hasten to add, and it was Paul Gilchrist. He'd had all his hair cropped off. Just briefly, I didn't recognise him because he had this little frizzy hairstyle in those days, and he was again one of the quiet men of the side who just got on with the job. Good to have around.
Southampton seem to specialise in very loyal players. I mean, there've been a few. You know, we've got Letitia, Bates, Shannon came, went, did everything else. But in there as well is Nick Holmes. I mean, very quiet, a true Mr. Versatile. I mean, he would do anything for Southampton Football Club, wouldn't he?
He would, and he did.
Yeah.
Wonderful person and personality. Very, very quiet sort of lad throughout the club, generally. One of the workhorses, obviously a younger lad, but I can recall when I first arrived at the club and various players were there and I had to sort of get used to their names and one thing and another, and we were out on a long distance run, which I wasn't very good at. I was always started off at the front, but quickly sort of dodged to the back.
Led from the back, yeah.
Led from the back, as you make sure the skipper pushes everybody on,
quite
as you do.
Yeah, quite.
And I heard this noise coming alongside me. And I couldn't believe what I saw next. It was Nick Holmes, one of the youngest, fittest men that you got at this club. Yeah. And he was just wheezing away like an old timer. I mean, I sounded very similar to him at the time, but this is the sort of person he was. He would work and die for the team, presented himself around the club impeccably, good ambassador for the club and for himself. And again, good to have on Peachy's side on the day with Coppell. I'm sure they would discuss it with them, and they were a great help to each other. But live and die for Southampton, Nick Holmes.
I mean, here is a young lad. I mean, as a schoolboy, he was on the terraces. He was brought up on Southampton Football Club. So did you see that when he came into the side? Because in a way, he could have been in awe of everyone else, couldn't he? Because these were the people he really did look up to.
He could have been in awe, but he'd been at the club so long, with Terry Payne and already introduced to Mick Shannon, and plus Ozzy and all the experienced players that were there long before I arrived at the club. He would have had a good grounding, and in a dressing room you can get a good grounding from the likes of Shannon, Osgood, Steele, and moving back to the older players, Payne, Sydenham. You get a good grounding. The mickey's taken out of you. You either stand up tall or you just fold and you don't make the grade, basically. Yeah. I'm sure it's not as bad as that, but there's a lot of mickey taken going on within the club, and like you say, to come off the terraces like that, join the club that you've always idolised, if you like, and seen all these fabulous players, and you're in the dressing room there with them, that is something special for, I'm sure, Nick in particular, where he's seen them all. And then to reach the climax of getting to a cup final and winning it must have been a dream come true. He still had a lot more involvement in the club after that. But
well, only 21 at the time when he won
21
his
at the
cup,
time, you don't realise. He had a beard at the time, and I think he looked about 92. Yeah. But he ran like a 21-year-old, believe me.
So Laurie is famous for his team sort of meeting with you all and explaining how you were all more experienced than all that Man United team. What did he do when he got to Nick, though?
It wasn't so much we were more experienced. We had, and Laurie said it, you have a good gel here, lads. You have the experience. McCalliog, Rodrigues, Shannon, Jim McCalliog, these sort of people who'd played at Wembley before and played for their countries before. So we had a lot of experience. And then he threw in the David Peaches and the Nick Holmes and the Bobby Stokes, Paul Gilchrist, who were younger men. And Laurie could see it. There was a fine balance there. And I think on the day, and I really do believe it, that won the day for us, the good blend of youth and older players.
Big cup ties. It wasn't only exclusively 1976 for Nick Holmes. He had a few with Southampton, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I think he wandered back in '79 in the League Cup final, I think, as it was then, probably. I was there as a spectator, and I sat in the stand and watched the lads, and I extremely unlucky, not to sort of pull it off, but Forest were a good side at the time, and I think Nicky scored a good goal, as I recall. Left peg, they lost 3-2 anyway. I think Peach and Holmes scored the goals. And I sat and watched it, and I was extremely disappointed, sat in the stand watching these lads come off without anything, but that was another opportunity for Nick. He got promotion with the club eventually and got relegated, so you get the highs and lows of football, which is normal, natural. But he's had his good times with Southampton, and I'm sure he can, well, he's walked away now, but he'll have fond memories of that club.
And 2 other FA Cup semi-finals as well.
2 semi-finals as well, which is absolutely wonderful. Again, I was at one of the losing, both in fact, and that is heart-wrenching for me, having played in a semi and won with the club. I didn't really know how those guys felt, but I could only imagine how they felt, and I was in tears. For the guys. It was a sad day for the club not to sort of reach the final again, and I was desperate for them.
Nick really did make a life out of going to America. The others sort of flirted with it, came back, did it for the football. But Nick's really he put down roots there, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I think his children went out there, went to the various colleges, universities, as they do over there, and it's a good education especially if you're interested in sport, which his children are and still are, I understand. And they were doing extremely well at, I think, squash was one particular sport, and the American football, which the other lad was doing quite well at. And consequently, Nick went over there to support them and change his lifestyle from the little store he had up in, locally in Hampshire, to sort of go out there and uproots was a brave thing to do. And he did it, and I think he still enjoys it out there.
But you see, it's always in your blood. I mean, we've talked about many of the players already who've dabbled with a bit of football management, coaching, all the rest of it, and Nick Holmes is just like all the rest. He got a call from, well, sort of unexpected area of the country. He
did. He came back.
To his hometown, of course.
To his hometown, yeah, in Hampshire. So it's a local side, and they invited him to come and train them and coach them and what have you. I am amazed, because this is the quietest person on 2 legs I've ever seen. So for him to give a team meeting, I'm sure he wrote it down on a piece of paper and gave it to the assistant coach and said, "Read that out." No, seriously, I've spoken to him and he's thriving on it. He loves it. I think he's in for a 2nd season at this local club. So I'm sure he can express all his experience to these players, and because of his attitude and the person that he is, he will get, not demand, he will get respect from these local people, and I think they're off to a good start again this season. So I wish Nick and the local side all the very best, and certainly Nick in particular.
Here's a name to conjure with, Peter Osgood. Go on, you start somewhere, because there's so many places to get into the character of Peter Osgood.
Name to conjure with, conjure is the exact word. I think he could do anything with the ball that you chose to do. A wonderful player. Wonderful personality, as I said. I keep saying all the lads in the side were. Peter Osgood, unto himself, biggest Mickey taker you're ever going to get. He thrives on it. I can respond to it. All the players respond to it. So this hence is the good rapport, the friendliness within the club, that Ozzy could take, any amount of stick, but also dish it out big time. So I love being around Ozzy, Peter Osgood. Always has been a wonderful player as far as I'm concerned, even in the early days when he was at Chelsea. But at Southampton, he's a wonderful character to have in the dressing room, certainly on the park, because the things that he could do with the ball were, even later on in his football career, were superb. He could turn it on if and when he chose. He was a big crowd player, if you like. A big crowd for him, and he'd turn it on, and he has the arrogance and the joie de vivre, if you like. But point being, he's down to earth, and a lovely person to have, and I enjoy his company very much.
I mean, for any professional player to have one great spell and one period at one club is great, and you take it. But Osgood did have 2 of them, one as Mr. Chelsea and one as Mr. Southampton. And so just what was it about those Chelsea days? I mean, you're looking at him, you've had to play against him. Just how big was he? What kind of a player was he?
He was massive. I mean, not in stature, but in ability. And the side they had at the time, they were so youthful and they were so energetic. again, I'm sure they would live and die for each other, but you could tell that the way they were playing. And then Ozzy was a legend at Chelsea, always will be, forever and a day. And I can remember him telling me a little story one day that when Hullet became manager of the side, but Hullet never had a lot of time for Ozzy, which you can see clash of personalities, maybe understandable, which I think is silly, but that's beside the point. And then I think Vialli came into the side and what have you, and Hullet left, and I think Vialli became manager of Chelsea then. And Ozzy said, I couldn't believe it one day. Vialli walked towards me. He said, Peter, you are the legend. And he said Hullet never had the time of day for Peter Osgood, but Vialli came to him and said, Peter, pleased to meet you. You are the legend of... And Ozzy was so pleased and chuffed with that statement that made his day, made his day.
In terms of his England career, he only got 4 caps, but he surely should have had a lot more.
He would. Well, he should have done, I suppose. But again, if you hit the wrong period of time with players and the different managers, one manager sees one thing, another manager sees something totally different. Yes, you'd have Ozzy in the side, you'd have Matt Letizia in the side and various Southampton players in the side, but with a manager of whoever, you didn't see that, then you wouldn't get the games, same as Jim McCallio didn't get the games. But Ozzy deserved a lot more than he did because his ability was, at the time, second to none.
And his impact, not particularly as in terms of the skills or whatever he did in the game, but in terms of around the period of that, the weeks building up to that FA Cup final.
Mainstay.
Yeah.
He's always there in or around something that's going on, and it's generally fun and but serious, big time. We had a week away before the cup final, and we were just relaxed playing five-a-sides and game of golf. But he was always there in everything. So that was nice to have. And the younger lad, I'm a fairly quiet person in that respect. The younger players were quiet, but he would be there, geeing everybody up and drawing you out and making you feel relaxed. And he was good to have, and he was always in the forefront of whatever was going on.
You talk about the spirit that man has, and he has used it to good use, hasn't he? In terms of after his footballing days are over. Yeah,
after his playing days, we all wonder what career we're going to take or move on to or what have you. And I think Ozzy's chosen it very, very and extremely well. One is his after dinner speaking, which he has 1,000,001 stories, like we all do basically, but he can put it over in such a way that make you laugh, make you cry, and keep you entertained for an hour or so. And he's involved with the local golf club where him and his wife Lynn organise golf trips and one thing and another for various people. And also I think that the one thing that I think he does enjoy most, he enjoys everything he does in life, but one of the things that he is enjoying at the moment is down at the new St Mary's Stadium in Southampton, where they have a new stadium now, which is absolutely fabulous. I've been there on many occasions. And he is around the ground in the corporate suites and talking to people at the dinner table, having lunch with them, going up on the stage before the match, half-time, at the end of the match, and that is Ozzy's forte. He's broken away from Chelsea now, and he's down at Southampton. I'm sure if you ask him, he enjoys that as much as anything else, because that is a buzz. And I've been out in Spain for a little while now, moving back and forth and popping in to say hi to everybody. And when I go there, I'm always invited up on the stage with Ozzy, and it's wonderful to see him performing, as he did at football, superbly well.
This 76 team is famous for its reunions, and one person can't be there, Bobby Stokes.
Yeah, that's sad. Wonderful person, gentleman beyond reproach. Would walk across a crowded room and say, hi Pete, hi Ozzy, how you doing? And that's the sort of person and personality he was. One of the quiet lads, but he could have a laugh and joke like anybody else, basically in the side. And Peter Osgood used to take him under his wing and look after him as like a father figure, and I remember Ozzy going to the various sort of his after dinner speaking and one thing and another, and he'd take Stokesy along and sit him down in the corner, and it was lovely to see, so almost like a father-son relationship those two had. It was wonderful, but a lovely person.
What kind of shock was it when you knew he died?
Devastated. Cannot believe it even to this day that he was part of something that happened for us in Southampton, and obviously he scored the goal. but as a person, and devastated.
But there again, his name will live on and on and on because of that goal. And it wasn't any old goal, was it?
No, it wasn't any old goal. It was the most important. Like I said before, he's one of the best strikers of a ball in the football club. And just going along when I first moved there, he used to sort of, Mick Shannon used to have the horses and one thing, I was just talking about Mick briefly, and they used to come in, the pair of them, stinking of this horse manure. And Stokes used to muck out for him in the mornings with the old wheelbarrow and one thing and another. They used to come into training again, sort of like Peachy, just kind of a shower before they started training.
Let's go through that goal, because technically, how difficult was it? What happened there and how he took that goal?
Very difficult, because it was a clean ball from McCalliog, knocked it straight through, which is quick. And Stokesy was off the mark. He had to be off the mark because he was caught between two defenders. Not caught, he slotted in between two defenders. And he was off and running. And to go in stride and strike a ball like he did, it takes a lot of skill. And he was on the edge of the box when he struck it, and I've got that picture indoors now. He struck it extremely well. And I can remember him turning, and I was 40 metres away. And I, like a bat out of hell, I was after him. And again, I have lots of these little pictures, and there's 10 of us all on top of Bobby Stokes. 9, Ozzy was still getting there by the time I'd run 40 yards, Ozzy'd run 10 yards. I still got there before Ozzy, and Ozzy was in the background, really sort of excited by the goal. But there were 10 of us there, all draped around Bobby Stokes. And then obviously the game carried on, and we had to sort of fight through the next 10, 11 minutes, whatever it was, to secure that victory. And then we went up and collect the cup, and I didn't want to let go for a long period of time. Eventually let it go, and Stokesy got it, and everybody milled around him, obviously, for obvious reasons. And he was excited. Bobby Stokes was excited.
When you had just a quiet little moment as captain, what were the first words you said to him? When you just had a special time, when you and him, what did you want to say to him? That
was probably in the bath afterwards, The cup was there with us, and you just look and you hug and, thanks, Bob. That's. He didn't want the accolades. He wasn't that sort of person. He didn't want the fame, the fortune that went along with that, which is unfortunate.
Is that possibly why? That this career should have gone on and on and on, and it didn't.
It didn't. No, because I'm not saying he couldn't handle it, but it came to him very quickly. He was a regular player at Southampton, got into the side on a cup run, and he was doing extremely well in the cup run, and obviously scored the winning goal, which should have sent anybody sky high in, oh right, this is me for the future. At my age, that was the end for me, but for him it should have moved on. And I think he'd won a car for getting the goal, and it was parked on the Dell pitch at the time, a Granada Gear, I think it was, worth a lot of money. Couldn't drive. That's how inobtrusive Bobby Stokes was. Couldn't drive, wasn't really fussed, don't mind catching the train up to training. And he was offered 1 year's sort of driving instruction from somebody in Southampton, and he declined. I'm not fussed. He sold the car, took the money down to Pompey, and maybe bought a little house or something down there, and sort of drifted in that scenario. And I think he possibly left the following season. And he went Pompey way again, which slightly more acceptable because he was a Cosham lad, which is a local, near Pompey. So he was embraced slightly, not as much as Paul Gilchrist, but he went down there and he just sort of drifted and faded out of the game, which was a tragedy, because he should have come on from that point, having scored that. But he didn't move on from there, which was sad.
Ran his calf, didn't he?
Ran his little calf, and that's Stokesy. I've seen some pictures of him there with his little pinny on, making the teas, big smile, always a big smile, always something to say, always polite. And then unfortunately, a few years later, he sort of passed away, which was heartbreaking for everybody,
Everyone who analysed the game at the time was talking about this fantastic Man United side and all these great stars. But the more you look at your side, the more you realise that there were some absolute pearls in there, and one in particular is the one and only Mick Shannon.
Correct, start to finish, and what you just said. There were loads of stars in our side, and I'd wished we'd been in the First Division at the time, because I think we had a side capable of coping with the First Division. Shannon in particular is a whirlwind. You know, he's a fabulous player, direct, which I like as a striker, because if I'm a defender defending against somebody like that, it's awesome.
Well, even in training ground sort of scenarios, you'd had been up against him. What on earth was that like?
Not much fun, not much fun. I'd always try and get on the opposition or on his side or whatever, you know, or on the opposite side of the pitch to him. He's awesome. He's quick. He's direct. He scores goals. I don't think he was that good in training as scoring goals. He'd knock them over the bar. He'd knock them wide. He'd go out on a Saturday and he'd knock them in for you left, right, and centre. And he was a mainstay, as we know, of that club for years and years and years. You know, it's you can't compare him with anybody at that football club at all.
A sort of flame that burns bright, and just the way he looks at people, the way he acts, everything about it.
He's a natural man. He's a natural man. He's obviously now successful at horse racing and what have you, but in his playing days, he just thoroughly enjoyed the game, and you were aware of that. Even off the pitch, he was bubbly, he was part and parcel of the club and the team, all told.
And this horse racing thing, which has just sort of blossomed into extraordinary areas now, but it was always there.
Always there. I bought a pub and I had some memorabilia, some pictures, little collages and montages up on the wall. And I think one was him sweeping outside his stable where he lived with Kathy Jane, I think the name of the horse that he had. And it was apparent then, you know, with the long sort of Beatle-type haircut and the horse in the stables, there was more to this than just sort of met the eye. And over the years, he's proven everybody, as we know, correct. He has the ability to train, manage, handle horses, which is fabulous. To have two careers in one life is unbelievable.
So on that day, what did